There is no magic pill, no single secret, but there is a master key. And Napoleon Hill, one of the greatest minds to ever study success, devoted his life to discovering and explaining it. As Hill said, whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Let that sink in. It is not simply what you wish for, not what you dream about idly. It is what you conceive with purpose and believe with persistence that turns into reality. Now, Hill spent over 25 years interviewing the most successful people of his time: Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, and dozens more, to discover the common thread that made greatness predictable. He distilled their habits, their beliefs, and their inner mechanics into one system. A philosophy that applies in any field to any goal. At the heart of this philosophy is what Hill called definiteness of purpose. There is one quality which one must possess to win, he wrote, and that is definiteness of purpose, the knowledge of what one wants and a burning desire to possess it. Think about your own life for a moment. Have you defined what it is you truly want? Not vaguely, not more money or a better life, but clearly, precisely, specifically. Because until you do, you are like a ship without a rudder, tossed by the waves, driven by the winds, but going nowhere with intention. Hill wrote, "A goal is a dream with a deadline. But before the goal comes desire, the starting point of all achievement. In Think and Grow Rich, Hill's first principle is desire. Not wishful thinking, not hope, but a white-hot, consuming obsession that drives you forward even when the road is hard." He tells the story of Edwin C. Barnes, who had one goal: to become a business partner of Thomas Edison. Not an employee, a partner. At the time, Barnes had no money, no special education, no introduction to Edison, but he had a definite purpose and he acted on it. He saved up, took a freight train, and appeared at Edison's office with one sentence: "I have come to go into business with Mr. Edison." Most people would call that delusional. Edison called it desire. He gave Barnes a chance. And years later, Barnes earned his place as a partner, not because of talent or luck, but because of a mind that refused to accept anything less than its definite purpose. There is a difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive it, Hill wrote. And the way you become ready is by building the belief to match your desire. Desire is the engine. Belief is the fuel. And that belief must be unshakable. So how do you believe in something that hasn't yet shown up? Through faith. And not the religious kind necessarily, but a mental attitude that you can cultivate. Because belief is not something you are born with. It is something you build through repetition, visualization, and self-suggestion. Hill wrote, "Faith is a state of mind which may be induced or created by affirmation or repeated instructions to the subconscious mind." This is where most people fall short. They think belief is supposed to arrive before action, but Hill flips it. Belief is created by action and sustained through autosuggestion. So let's dive deeper into this force Hill called autosuggestion, a method, a technique, a practice that allows you to plant the seed of belief in your subconscious mind. Autosuggestion is the agency of control through which an individual may voluntarily feed his subconscious mind on thoughts of a creative nature, Hill taught. Every day, every moment, you are suggesting things to yourself. Most people do it unconsciously. They say things like, "I could never do that. I'm not lucky. That kind of success isn't for people like me." These are negative suggestions, and your subconscious accepts them as truth, because it does not judge or argue. It simply acts on the instructions you give it most frequently and most emotionally. What if instead you began to repeat statements of power and belief? What if every morning and every night you read aloud your definite purpose, your specific goal, and affirmed with emotion that you will achieve it? This is not daydreaming. This is deliberate conditioning. Hill said, "You are the master of your destiny. You can influence, direct, and control your own environment. You can make your life what you want it to be." And it all begins with the instructions you give yourself. This is why written goals matter. This is why repetition matters. Because belief is not always instantaneous. It is built in layers like bricks forming a fortress, and that fortress will protect you from doubt, failure, and the ridicule of others if you build it with care. Now let's talk about another critical element, the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is like fertile soil. Whatever you plant in it, through repetition, emotion, and belief, it will grow. That could be fear. That could be hope. That could be confidence. It depends entirely on what seeds you sow. Hill emphasized that the subconscious mind is always listening to your word, your tone, your feelings. So feed it deliberately. That's why he recommended emotionally charged affirmations spoken daily. Something like, "I know that I have the ability to achieve the object of my definite purpose in life. Therefore, I demand of myself persistent, continuous action toward its attainment, and I here and now promise to render such action." That's not just a motivational quote. That is a command to your subconscious. It's the start of a psychological transformation. Because here's what Hill observed. Those who succeed think differently than those who don't. They do not allow temporary failure to become permanent defeat. They do not allow circumstances to define their identity. They condition themselves to see opportunity where others see obstacles. They build faith through discipline and then act with courage, even when they do not yet have proof that success is near. Remember this: success always hides itself behind difficulty, behind the appearance of failure, behind long stretches of silence where nothing seems to be happening. But Napoleon Hill made it crystal clear. Every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. That's not just philosophical comfort. That's a mindset that turns defeat into fuel. Because the difference between those who win and those who quit is not genius or money or connections. It's simply this: those who win never stopped planting seeds. They keep feeding their minds with purpose, desire, faith, and positive suggestions, even when the results haven't shown up, even when people doubt them, even when the goal feels distant, even when they're tired and afraid. Because they understand that the harvest always comes, but only after the planting, the watering, the waiting, and the believing. So I ask you now, what have you been planting in your mind? What suggestions are you giving yourself daily? What goal are you feeding with faith? Let's now turn to one of the most misunderstood yet powerful elements of Hill's philosophy, the mastermind. He defined it simply: a mastermind is the coordination of knowledge and effort in a spirit of harmony between two or more people for the attainment of a definite purpose. You see, no person achieves great success entirely alone. Every story of achievement, whether in business, science, the arts, or leadership, is also a story of collaboration. Hill observed that when two minds come together in harmony, they create a third mind, a shared intelligence greater than the sum of its parts. You've felt this before, haven't you? In moments of inspired conversation, when ideas begin to flow faster, deeper, when the energy is elevated, when your thinking sharpens just by being around the right people. That's no accident. That's the mastermind principle in action. But it requires harmony, and it requires shared purpose. You must be selective about who you allow into your inner circle because your mind is vulnerable. People who are negative, cynical, or without goals of their own will drain your belief and disturb your focus. Hill wrote, "Every person who has accumulated a great fortune has recognized the power of the mastermind. No one has ever achieved success without applying this principle." So surround yourself not just with those who support you emotionally, but with those who are also pursuing greatness, who think in terms of opportunity, discipline, and vision. Let your mastermind group hold you accountable. Let them sharpen your thoughts, amplify your energy, and challenge you to rise higher. And once that structure is in place, purpose, desire, faith, and a mastermind, the final bridge to results is this: persistence. Persistence is to the character of man as carbon is to steel, Hill wrote. It's easy to be enthusiastic in the beginning. Anyone can start something, but only the few, the rare, develop the strength to keep going through uncertainty, failure, and fatigue. That's what separates the merely interested from the truly committed. Hill observed that many people give up right before success arrives. They dig for gold, find a little dust, hit some rock, and quit, not knowing they were just 3 feet away from a mother lode. More than 500 of the most successful men in this country, Hill wrote, told me that their greatest success came just one step beyond the point at which defeat had overtaken them. So, when things get hard, and they will, you must ask yourself, am I 3 feet from gold? When rejection comes, and it will, you ask, is this my test of belief? When no one is watching, applauding, or validating, you ask, do I still have what it takes to keep going? Persistence is not about grinding mindlessly. It's about refusing to surrender your definite chief aim, even when the path changes. You may pivot your strategy, you may adjust your timeline, but your purpose remains unshaken. And here's the truth Hill made crystal clear. The universe tests all who seek greatness. Not because it wants to punish you, but because it wants to know, are you serious? Are you committed? Are you willing to pay the price of patience, repetition, and unwavering belief? Those who keep on keeping on, Hill said, are those who truly win. Not by luck, but by law. The law of cause and effect. The law that says what you sow you shall reap if you do not quit before the harvest. Now we move into the realm of power, not political, not social, but personal power, the ability to decide. Napoleon Hill placed enormous importance on decision. He wrote, successful people make decisions quickly and firmly. Unsuccessful people make decisions slowly and change them often. Let that sink in. The world does not wait for the indecisive. Opportunities do not pause for the hesitant. Fortune does not linger with the uncertain. When you have a definite chief aim and you've built faith in yourself through repetition and focus, the next great leap forward is to become someone who can say with conviction, this is the direction I am going. I will adapt as needed, but I am moving. Every great achievement requires risk. Risk of failure, risk of judgment, risk of loss. But indecision is its own kind of failure. Slow, subtle, and corrosive. Indecision is the seedling of fear, Hill warned. Indecision crystallizes into doubt. The two blend and become fear. And fear, my friends, is the silent killer of dreams. That's why in Think and Grow Rich, Hill outlined the 6 basic fears that imprison the human spirit. The fear of poverty, the fear of criticism, the fear of ill health, the fear of loss of love, the fear of old age, the fear of death. He said fears are nothing more than a state of mind. They are illusions, but illusions so vivid that they become real in the minds of those who feed them. The antidote to fear, Hill taught, is not blind courage, but a positive mental attitude. An unwavering internal commitment to seeing opportunity instead of obstacles. With every adversity comes the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. That's not just a nice sentiment. It is a lens, a decision, a mindset. People with a positive mental attitude don't ignore problems. They reframe them. They learn from them. They grow through them. It's not about being naive. It's about being in control of your state of mind, even when circumstances are uncertain. You may not control everything in the external world, but you always control your attitude, your focus, your effort, and your reaction. Hill said, "A positive mind finds a way it can be done. A negative mind looks for all the ways it can't be done." So I ask you today, are you choosing to focus on what you control? Are you making decisions or waiting for someone to choose for you? Are you letting fear run your life or faith? This is not theory. This is the difference between movement and stagnation, between growth and decline, between a rich life and an empty one. The decision to act, to move forward in the face of fear, is how you claim your power. And the positive mental attitude, that's your armor. That's your light in the darkness. That's the foundation from which all successful action springs. Hill believed, and proved, that success is 85% mindset and only 15% method. You can give 2 people the same opportunity, the same strategy, even the same resources, and one will thrive and the other will flounder. Why? Because mindset governs everything. Your beliefs about yourself, your response to failure, your ability to persist, adapt, and decide. That's what determines outcomes. Success comes to those who become success conscious. That means thinking, speaking, and acting in alignment with the results you desire, as if it were already becoming true. As we continue along Hill's roadmap to greatness, we come to one of the most misunderstood and at times controversial principles in Think and Grow Rich, sex transmutation. Now, before assumptions are made, let's clarify. Napoleon Hill was not writing about repression or moral instruction. He was pointing to something far more profound, a truth about human energy. He wrote, "Sex energy is the creative energy of all geniuses." What Hill discovered was this: the emotion of sex is the most powerful of all human desires. When harnessed, not suppressed, but redirected, that energy can be transmuted into highly productive, creative, and inspirational output. The most successful men and women in history learned to channel that desire into art, enterprise, invention, and influence. When driven by this desire, Hill wrote, men develop keenness of imagination, courage, willpower, persistence, and creative ability unknown to them at other times. In other words, great passion, when not wasted in idle pleasure or misdirected impulse, becomes a creative fuel. It's the fire behind invention, innovation, poetry, music, wealth building, and leadership. So ask yourself, are you diffusing your energy or focusing it? Are you dispersing power or transmuting it into something meaningful? That brings us to another Hill principle: imagination. Imagination is the workshop of the mind, he said, where all plans are created. Every invention, every company, every work of art, every fortune, started as a picture in someone's mind. The mind is the seabed of every achievement, and imagination is its sculptor. There are two types of imagination Hill identified: synthetic imagination, rearranging existing concepts, plans, and ideas; creative imagination, receiving insights and inspirations that seem to come from nowhere. What some call intuition or divine spark. Both are essential. But the latter, creative imagination, is what distinguishes the visionary from the technician. It's where the impossible is first made visible. Ideas are the beginning points of all fortunes, Hill taught. But ideas alone are not enough. They must be fused with desire, backed by faith, clarified with decision, acted on with persistence, and supported by the right mastermind group. And finally, we arrive at Hill's most elusive concept, the sixth sense. He referred to it as the door to the temple of wisdom, the faculty through which one receives hunches and inspirations. He admitted that the sixth sense cannot be fully explained, only experienced, and only after one has mastered the earlier principles. Hill suggested that once the mind is trained through discipline, repetition, desire, and faith, it becomes more open to signals from the subconscious, or even something beyond the self. The sixth sense defies description, he wrote, but it is not something you can afford to ignore. How many of history's greatest decisions were made on a hunch? How many turning points came from a whisper, a feeling, a sudden knowing? This is not mysticism. This is human potential at its peak. Hill believed that when you align your thoughts, emotions, and actions with your definite chief aim, you awaken abilities that most never access. You begin to sense the right move, even without clear evidence. You see connections others miss. You are guided, not by magic, but by a mind attuned to success. But this only becomes possible after you've done the work, the mental discipline, the focus, the daily auto-suggestion, the inner conditioning. The sixth sense is not the beginning of the journey. It is the reward for walking the path. And so we come to the conclusion, but not an end. Because the real work begins after the words fade, after the inspiration cools, after you leave here today and face the great silence that follows all big decisions, the silence of your own inner world. Napoleon Hill did not promise ease. He did not promise shortcuts. He never claimed success was instant or that wealth, health, or peace would come without cost. Instead, he gave us something far greater: a blueprint, a philosophy, a system, built not on fantasy, but on study, experience, and the lived wisdom of some of history's greatest minds. And what does that philosophy ask of you? It asks you to decide what you want. It asks you to believe that you can attain it. It asks you to persist long after the mood has faded. It asks you to master your mind before you attempt to master the world. Hill wrote, "No man can succeed in a line of endeavor which he does not like. So you must choose a purpose not just for profit, but for meaning. Something that matters to you. Something that stirs you at the soul level. Because only then will you have the desire, the white-hot, consuming desire, to endure the tests that will come. And tests will come. Before success comes in any man's life, he is sure to meet with much temporary defeat and perhaps some failure. But that is not punishment. That is preparation. It is life's way of asking, how bad do you want it? What are you willing to give in exchange? Will you keep going even when no one claps, no one helps, and no one sees you? Hill often said, success requires no explanations. Failure permits no alibis. You either do the work or you don't. You either hold the vision or you fold. You either persist until you win, or you become one of the many who almost did. This is not harsh. This is clarity. And clarity is a gift. Because in a world full of distraction, confusion, and noise, the person with definiteness of purpose stands like a lighthouse, steady, bright, unshaken. So what will your definite purpose be? What will you write on that page, in ink, in your own hand, and read aloud twice a day? Once in the morning to guide your actions, once at night to instruct your subconscious. Will you commit, truly commit, to building the life that only you can build? Will you dare to believe that you are meant for more? Not because someone told you, but because you have decided it will be so. As Hill wrote in his final lesson, life is a checkerboard, and the player opposite you is time. If you hesitate before moving, or neglect to move promptly, your men will be wiped off the board by time. You are playing against a partner who will not tolerate indecision. So move, act, decide. Today, not someday. Burn your bridges, banish your backup plans, declare your intent, and let your actions prove you mean it. No one will do it for you, but everything you need already lives within you. You don't need permission. You don't need perfect timing. You don't even need to feel ready. What you need is to begin. Begin with a burning desire. Fuel it with unwavering faith. Feed it through autosuggestion. Sharpen it with specialized knowledge. Support it through a mastermind alliance. Protect it with a positive mental attitude. Strengthen it through persistence. And finish it with action. Napoleon Hill gave us the map. Now the question is, will you take the journey? Thank you.